Alright guys, it's Chatterbox Reviews, coming at you guys with Westworld, Season 2, Episode 3, Review. Alright, so I really enjoyed this episode. Honestly, I thought it was, I don't know, I could compare it to Episode 1, I think. But yeah, definitely on that level, and I really enjoyed Episode 1. I thought it set out the season really well. And this episode's really staying on the trend, right, of this season, and it's a really good trend. So yeah, so I'm really loving this show. I do apologize that this one is a day late, right, or 2 days late now. All the reviews I'm just going to back up this week, so unfortunately they're going to be a few days late, or a couple days later than they usually are. So yeah, so I apologize for that, but nonetheless, we are here for the review. But yeah, honestly, I really enjoyed this episode. A lot of good things. I mean, I don't even know if like there's any like big negatives of the episode that I can think of. Right? I mean, the ending to the episode was obviously pretty awesome, right? Because we knew well, I'll talk about this a little bit later, but we knew that, we were going to get introduced to this, and we just didn't know when, right? So it turns out they're kind of giving us a little bit of that in this episode, in episode 3 of the season. So that's really awesome to see. So yeah, and I mean this episode, they really have been branching out now, right? They're showing us different parks and stuff, right? The Bengal tiger, of course, it starts off with, and then at the end we get that little kind of sneak peek or a little teaser of what's gonna come. So really good episode here. We'll go through a little bit of a recap first, and then of course get to a rating, favorite character, and some more overall thoughts of the episode. But yeah, so really thank you guys for the support on the channel recently. I think yesterday or the last 2 days I gained like 10 no, not 10 subscribers. I think it was like 7 or 8 subscribers within the like 2 days or something like that. So I just really appreciate that, and the comments, the likes, and all that stuff. So I'd just like to say thank you for that. I feel like if I say it at the end of the video, then I might not have as many people's attention. But yeah, so I just want to get that out now. So thank you guys so much for that. Really appreciative of that. We're at 100 subscribers now, right, on the channel. So it's pretty awesome. But anyways, let's get into this episode here, episode 3 of season 2. So and like I said before, I'm really enjoying season 2, maybe even better than season 1. It's really good. So, all right, so we start off here with a woman and man. They're going hunting for bangles in a different park, or at least a different sector, right? And that was like, it was very interesting at the beginning. I actually thought originally that it was a flashback to Teresa as a young woman from season 1. But turns out that was not the case, right? It was a totally different girl. But I don't know, I just thought it kind of resembled her in the way that she was smoking the cigarette as well, like Teresa did back in season 1. So I first just made that kind of connection there, but I don't think that's the case unless they're like really screwing with the timelines on us. But no, I think it's a totally different girl, but at first that's kind of what I thought. But yeah, anyway, so we see a little bit of a sequence with those two. She kind of tests if he's a host or not, and she shoots him or something like that. So we see that stuff, and now whatever, kind of like a throwaway part of it. But then so they actually go on the hunt now, right? So they're out in the wild, they go on this hunt, and all of a sudden they start to realize, they're like, something's wrong here, right? Because there's no hosts there, and then the one tiger is just frozen in the spot, right? So they kind of know, they notice something is up here, something is wrong, and then all of a sudden the guy, the man, is shot by one of the hosts, right? And they can't believe it, obviously, so she's dumbfounded, and he's dead, right? Like he gets killed by this, by the gunshot. So yeah, really crazy, right? And they start to see this new narrative taking place, taking shape, right? Now I don't know, like, I don't know why the other host didn't try attacking them too. I'm not sure why it was just this one guy who went in and tried to kill them. I don't quite get that, but, we get the point of the thing, right? We get that they're trying, they're starting to see this new narrative too, with the host kind of striking back, and actually being able to harm humans. And the guy says right before he gets shot, he's like, oh, it doesn't matter, he can't hurt us. But little does he know that he can, and he dies, right? So pretty crazy. And then she's chased by this Bengal tiger when she gets away from the guy. I think she shoots the host who shot the man, right? kind of like he's walking in, the suspense builds, right? Because she, loads the gun, and then, finally she shoots him, and kills him, but then she's chased by this Bengal tiger, right, to the edge of this cliff. And also to note, that line there, that little like red line, the barrier for the end of the park, what was there, and the tiger just went right over it. And that's probably not allowed when the actual, when the hosts are actually, regulated, right? Like, they're not trying to attack humans, or they are, but they're not successful, right? So the tiger just walks right over that line and out of the park. So, that's pretty crazy there. And yeah, so she gets chased to the edge of this cliff now, and of course, remember, this tiger can attack her now, right? It can actually hurt her, which, before obviously couldn't happen, right? They're just hunting for these tigers. So yeah, so they go off this cliff. She and the tiger together, the tiger attacks her, and they fall over the cliff, right? And I loved it in the previously on. The last scene they showed us in the previously on was Bernard and Strand finding and the others finding the Bengal tiger on the shore. And this just, definitely comes full circle, right? Totally comes full circle and explains how the tiger actually got to where Bernard and Strand see it later on, right? So this is a flashback, per se, right? The timelines with the show is all over the place sometimes, right? So you kind of have to infer, but yeah, this is definitely a flashback. The Bernard and Strand is like current times, like right, happening right now. Or at least we think, right? I mean, who knows? But, with this show, who knows? But, yeah, anyways. So that was a really cool sequence there, and then the intro plays. But yeah, that was a really good, intro sequence there. I feel like the last two episodes too have been really good for that. Like, they put something really cool at the beginning, and then towards the end of the episode, of course, we saw that all connect back together again. So they're doing a really great job of that with these episodes here. As always, right? Season 1 was, done just as well, right? So then Bernard and Strand meet up with Charlotte, right? And she's surprised to see Bernard back. So again, we haven't gotten the full story yet. Even after this episode, we still haven't got the full story of connecting Bernard's timeline from being basically where he is now at the fort, dragged away by Clementine. We'll talk a little bit about that later. But he's dragged away by Clementine. And then we also see him meet up with Charlotte with Strand, right? So we haven't pieced those two together yet, and I'm sure that maybe next episode we'll be able to piece those together. If not, probably the next episode. I don't think they'd, take that long to kind of connect everything together. But there'll be some twists in there as well, probably, that they'll throw at us. But yeah, and they're still not able to find the Abernathy host, which is interesting because we see in the rest of the episode that Charlotte and the man actually have Abernathy in their vehicle and are driving away. So obviously we know something has happened since then, and they haven't been able to bring it back, right? So it's very interesting how they give us like the timelines here, right? They give us the current times and they show us what has happened and all this stuff. So they do a really good job with that. So then we see a flashback, right? So now the whole part of the episode here is all like flashbacks, right? Now, not many current time scenes and sequences here. So Bernard and Charlotte then find where Abernathy is, right? So they're able to finally track him down. And I think we left off like this last episode with them kind of tracking him on the tablet. I think episode 1, they were kind of tracking him with the tablet, and they finally found him, right? So he's with Stephen Ogg. Now, I don't know his character's name. I just, he's kind of like a bandit, right? Or a gunslinger, I think they call him. So Stephen Ogg is back. I actually thought when we saw him get assassinated there on the beach in episode 1, I thought Stephen Ogg would be done with Westworld, but he's actually back, so that's pretty cool. Obviously, he was in Walking Dead as well, so I really liked him in that. And they killed him off too in this in the last season. So very nice to see him on Westworld. But again, like I said, I think I said this in the last review, but to be in like the Walking Dead and Westworld, it's just in like the same, like within months too, right, of coming out, like that's pretty cool. That's a pretty big deal for him, and both are pretty big roles, right? They're not just in the background, whatever, right? They're pretty big roles. So yeah, really good work for him. But anyway, so they devise a plan to free Abernathy, right? So Charlotte and Bernard kind of coming together and thinking about how they're going to do this because he's being guarded by these hosts, right? Stephen Ogg's character, I'll just call him the gunslinger. The gunslinger and the men are all guarding them, right? So they're able to lure the gunslinger or Stephen Ogg's character out, from the rest of the hosts there, and they're able to knock him out, I guess, right? So they knock him unconscious, And then Bernard actually hooks up to his technology, right? He hooks in, and they turn his personalities up. He turns into compassion, and the remorse or something like that. But turns down all like the violent things, right? So he just totally screws with the whole host's role and character, right? So that he will free all of the hostages, and he actually kills his own men who are guarding them. So it was a really great idea. It was really cool to see that. And I think this was a good thing, because like we have to remember, yeah, like they look pretty good right now. We can't kill them, whatever. But if you are able to like hook into them, you could change them completely, right? So yeah, I just feel like that was a really good scene to kind of symbolize that we still can control them, even though they're fighting back against us, right? We ultimately have that total control. I mean, Dolores, when you get to a point like that, I don't know if you can actually even change characteristics. I don't know if that would actually do anything to Dolores, but the others for sure, right? And we see that in this episode. So then they find Abernathy, right? And he's kind of running away from the big commotion there, and they tell him to come with them, right? And then suddenly the Federalos showed up, or the Confederalos show up, and there was a lot of focus with them in this episode. So they show up to this big thing in the forest, right? They find Stephen Ogg, the gunslinger guy, and they kill him, right, for freeing all the hostages that he was supposed to give to them, right, as kind of a reward or something like that, or they say they're merchandise, right? So anyway, so they come in, they ride in, I think they kill him, and then of course they go after the rest of them, right? Or maybe they actually don't kill him, because he's found later on the beach, of course, in episode 1. So yeah, interesting there. But anyways, so they're kind of chasing after Charlotte, Bernard, and Abernathy, and suddenly he just starts walking out. He just walks out, from the hiding place in the tree there, and starts singing and something like that. So we know that he's, something is up with Abernathy, the host, and we know that something is kind of screwing him up, right? He's not in his normal loop, right, like the other hosts. So he gets captured by the Federalos then, and but then we see Charlotte actually gets away on the horse, right? So she actually gets away, and Bernard gets caught along with Abernathy, right? So they both get caught, but Charlotte gets away on her horse. So that was very interesting, and of course, still Charlotte does not know that Bernard is a host, right? She thinks that he's human. I don't think any human knows that he's a host now, right? Because Ford is dead, right? Honestly, I don't even know if any other human did know other than him. So yeah, Bernard still has kind of that cover, but right now he's not in a good place, as we see there in the episode. So then Dolores meets up with the colonel of the Federalos there, and she convinces them to join in her war against the humans, right, or the other side, right? They never really kind of refer to them as humans, but that's what they are. It's the humans fighting against them now. And she says, with your men, with your help, we won't just survive the horses riding against us, which, it's not horses, it's vehicles, right? We won't just survive, but we'll crush them. So that's what she believes, right? Or at least she's telling the colonel that, because she knows how to play into him, right? She knows, what he's gonna, like, and what's gonna, make him join the fight, right? So she needs his men is what happens, because they have the numbers over them, but luckily they can use all these men from the Federalos to kind of combat that, right? So she gives the colonel the gun that the one guy was holding when they caught him in the building last episode, and this was kind of I don't know, I just really thought this was kind of a horrifying scene, because they give the host, right, the colonel, this machine gun sort of thing. It's kind of like an advanced machine gun, it looks like, right? Because I still think that this is a futuristic based show, right? I don't think that this park and everything was built, in 2018, for example, right? I think we're a few years down the road. So obviously they've developed guns, right? So and that's, I think that's obvious, right? That it's a futuristic thing. I'm not sure how far into the future, but yeah, it definitely is. But anyway, so they give him the gun, and then they tell the human, like he's a human, right? He's not a host. They tell him, the guy, to run away, right? And then they'll let him live. and this host just shoots him dead, right, and kind of sprays him with bullets there, and he dies. And that, I don't know, I just felt like that was a really horrifying scene to see the host like have the same weapons and being able to use it the same as humans. Just, really crazy thing there. And of course, it doesn't really make sense though, because the Colonel doesn't use that gun later on, which if he did, he actually probably would have done some damage to the humans. So I'm not exactly sure what happened there. And she says you can keep it, right? Or you can keep the gun and you can have it. But later in the episode, he doesn't fire it. So I don't know. That's, maybe something that they missed, or maybe something I missed. I'm not sure. So then the Major brings back Bernard and Abernathy, right? So he brings back the prisoners, per se, right, from the whole fiasco with the gunslinger, Stephen Ogg's character. So then Dolores recognizes him right away, right? And she recognizes Abernathy and kind of remembers, right, that he's her father, right? But it's been so long since she's actually seen him, right? But if she was a normal host and she wasn't, conscious, per se, or I guess that is what she is, she's conscious now, she probably wouldn't have recognized him because she wouldn't have remembered him, right? So very interesting there, right? So she then commits Bernard to jail, right? She says, take him to jail, but I want my father to go to the infirmary, and hopefully we can get him some help, right? So then Dolores has a moment with her dad, right? Well, of course, not her real dad, and that's another thing too. Like, Maeve is looking for her daughter, but she's not her real daughter. Yet Maeve, we think has kind of, I don't know about consciousness quite yet, but she's really close to that, right? And Dolores is, at this conscious state, but she, I think, still believes that is her dad, right? So there's a little bit missing there. Like, why can't they piece together that, maybe that's not their actual parent or their actual daughter, right? So I don't know, but she still seems to think that he is her father. And so they're talking a little bit, right? And then suddenly we just see him snap back to his role, right? So they're gonna have this conversation. He's struggling and he's like shaking a lot, right? And he's in this kind of state, right? And all of a sudden he just snaps back to his role. So it's really, really interesting to see, and obviously something is wrong with them, right? We know that. And I really like this line here from Dolores, and she says, I broke free with the pull of a trigger, but it started a war, right? So she's finally free now, in the way that she pulled that trigger against Ford, right, and killed him. That was the moment where she became free, but now she has to fight for that freedom, right? That, gun, that pull of the trigger started a war. So I really like that line. I feel like that's really significant, and I think that's just really truthful with what's going on right now, right? If she wouldn't have pulled that trigger, nothing would have happened, right? I mean, I'm sure another host would have, killed a human and they would have figured out. But she was kind of the whole start of that, right? She started the whole thing. So they're having this moment, and then all of a sudden he snaps back into his other state again, right? So you see, exactly what's going on. He's, kind of messed up, right? Something's wrong with him, obviously. So then we see Dolores talk to Bernard in the little prison there, and it was kind of funny. They like took him to like hospital beds or something. Apparently that was the prison. But anyways, so she knows he's a host. I don't know if this was obvious, but I was surprised by this because I wasn't sure if she knew that he was a host or not. And they just kind of made it seem like she, that was obvious to her. So I don't know, because in the past, I mean, with her experience with him, maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I'm not remembering one of the moments where they told Dolores that Bernard was a host. Maybe I'm just forgetting that. But to me, I really haven't, I don't remember a moment where they actually revealed that to her. So I'm not exactly sure how she knows that. But again, maybe I'm missing something. I probably am, right? So she says to Bernard, again, I love this line, my whole life has been dictated by someone else. Someone has been saying, you will. Now I feel like I've discovered my own voice, and it says, I may, right? So, again, just really significant, right? Talking about her, gaining consciousness and all that stuff, right? She's hearing her own voice, and that was the end of season 1 there, right? In the finale episode where, they're sitting in that, she's sitting in that little glass kind of chamber thing, and she's trying to figure out who's this voice talking to her, right? And then suddenly she sees herself in front of her sitting in the chair, and she figures out it's her own voice talking to her, and that's kind of when she finally completes the maze and she becomes conscious, right? So yeah, really, really significant line there. And then she takes him to her father, right? So she wants him to fix him, pretty much, or she wants at least him to try, right? She wants her father to be fixed because she knows something's wrong with them. And it wasn't just like, she thought they kind of treat each other like humans. I mean, Dolores is way smarter than that. She knows it's a robot, right? Her dad's a robot, and they just need to fix his, wiring. You know what I mean? But all the other hosts would say, like, oh, he must have the flu or something, right? Because they're programmed to think, each other are human. So then Bernard says, what do you want, Dolores, right? And she says, to dominate this world. Crazy stuff, right? Damn, that's a crazy line there. And of course we kind of know that's kind of leading up, but to hear her finally actually say it, to dominate this world, is crazy, right? And then Bernard, I like this. He points out there's no dominating the world, right? Like, that's a ridiculous thought. The park is just a speck of dust compared to how big the world is what he says, right? And I mean, it's so true. I mean, the park is probably like a little island, on the earth. Right, and it pales in a comparison, right? So for her to say that kind of stuff, dominating the world, maybe she means the park, but she's probably not going to get any further than that, right? So yeah, I mean, she doesn't totally understand that yet, but Dolores says she's been there before and she's seen it, right? She's seen the world, and Bernard has not, and that's actually a very interesting statement that she made there. I didn't really think of that before, but she's actually seen the world, and Bernard has not, even though Bernard has been kind of made to be a human, right? I mean, the whole time we thought he was a human, and that was kind of his role, to be a human, work with the other humans and watch over the park, and yet he's actually never been in the real world. Right, so really crazy, and of course Dolores only remembers now, right, that she's gained her memory back. So yeah, and of course we saw that in last episode where she was actually in the real world. Really creepy scenes, by the way, for me at least, to kind of picture her right now in those scenes in the real world. It would be pretty scary, right? So. Then Bernard says there's an encryption key in Abernathy, right? And so this just kind of shows that Delos wants him really badly because they've done something to the host where they've kind of protected the coding and all that stuff, and they've changed him, right? So something is going on there. And then we see towards the end, Bernard manages to hack the encrypted key. I'm not exactly sure. It just looked like he was pressing a button over and over again, and then suddenly it worked. So I didn't totally understand that, but anyways, wouldn't that be awesome, right? For things, right? You just spam the button enough times and it ends up working. Maybe, right? So, anyways, he hacks the key, and then he, has a big reaction to it, but we don't actually know. Like, he doesn't explain what he's seeing. So, of course, I imagine next episode we will see that. All right, so then we see Maeve, right? We see this part with Maeve. I think we actually see a little bit of Maeve towards the beginning that I didn't talk about, but I just didn't really include that in the overall recap. But this was like the biggest, kind of moment for Maeve in the episode, along with the one at the very end, right? So Maeve, Hector, and Lee, I always forget this guy's name, Lee. He's played by Simon Quarterman. I know the actor's name, but I always forget the character's name. But anyways, Lee is his name. I find myself looking it up every time, and I don't know why. I mean, I remember all the other characters' names, but this guy, I don't know. I just feel like we haven't heard his name in a while, at least since season 1. Unless, again, I'm mistaken. But, yeah, honestly, the last time I remember hearing his name was season 1. So, wow, right? So, anyways, kind of unrelated. But, so they're still looking for her daughter, right? The three of them are kind of going together. Of course, it's really just Maeve and Hector. I mean, Lee's just kind of there to lead them, right? So then this was a really intense scene here where they are crossing this river, and they come across this Ghost Nation tribe, or these men from Ghost Nation. And these guys are, like, kind of scary looking, they've done a really good job in kind of, making these guys intimidating, right? In the whole way that they're, dressed, and of course the way they look, right? They're like painted and all that stuff. So really, really cool, right? They look really awesome. But anyways, and then we see one of the men that's coming after them. She remembers who it is, and then she remembers back to when she was with her daughter and that stuff. So we see that she also has those memories like Dolores. Now, I'm not sure if she can go quite far as back as Dolores, maybe. But right now we have only seen kind of like immediate memories of her daughter. So we're not sure, right? But anyway, so they say that they want to take Lee and then they'll let them go. But Maeve is like, no, I need him. We're not going to give Lee up, even though Hector wants to do it. She's like, no, that's not going to happen. So they run away. They run away from the Ghost Nation to protect Lee. And I don't know. I just felt like that was an interesting thing there, that Maeve actually decided to protect him instead of, just giving him up and walking away. Right? So that would have kind of been the smart thing to do, to be honest. But she kind of needs Lee to lead her, right, to her daughter. She doesn't know where she's going, really. So yeah, she needs him. So Lee ends up leading them to an elevator, and they are able to escape, luckily. But yeah, very suspenseful scene there, and it was, pretty intense when the Ghost Nation guys, come walking up to them. It's really, really cool. So yeah. So then they're in the hallway there of the building. I think it's the main building, right, of the park now, because they've gone in the elevator and they've gone underground. So they're in the hallway now, and then we see, so that we get a little scene with Lee and Hector, kind of a conflict there where, Hector kind of questions him, and he's like, you don't know me, and then Lee starts saying the exact lines that Hector is about to say. So we find out that Hector's actually is Lee, pretty much, right? He is the one who wrote the narrative for Hector, and it's basically him. Right, it's the guy that he dreams of being. That's his best self. Is Hector, right? In this world, right? So that was interesting there. But then they're still walking in the hallway at this point, and then all of a sudden, the girl with the tattoo, right? Armistice is her name, actually. I didn't even know that. I just thought, they just referred to her as the girl with the tattoo. But anyways, so she meets up with them again, right? So she's okay, but her arm is like, of course, because she got it caught in that door. But we find out she survived it, right? She was able to survive, and she actually took off her arm, I think. So now it's just like the like mechanics, right? Like there's no skin or anything like that. So she actually looks pretty badass, right? Kind of reminds me of like Ex Machina, right? A little bit, right? Or I think it's Ex Machina. Heard people say Ex Machinima too, but anyways, it just kind of reminds me of that. Like it's really cool the way she looks now. Anyways, and I love that the introduction to her again. We just see this guy on fire running away, and screaming, and then we see her kind of come in the back. So that was just kind of funny. That was pretty awesome. And then they go to find Felix and the other guy. I don't remember his name, but of course they were big, players in last season, and they kind of helped Maeve, become what she is. So yeah, really awesome stuff there. And then probably the biggest scene of the episode, or at least the biggest sequence of the episode, here, and I really wish it would have been a little bit longer, I have to say. By the time they set everything up, and I knew what was going to happen, the big fight scene, the big battle, I was a little bit disappointed. I thought they could have done a little bit better of a job, and they maybe should have spent a little bit more time on it, because it was really, really awesome. So anyway, so Charlotte finds some of the security guys, right, and she goes along with them to find Abernathy at the fort, right? So they know that he's there, and they know that, I think they know that most of the hosts are there. I'm not sure that they know the whole, Dolores has her whole army there or whatever, right? But I think they know that the hosts are there, right? So Dolores, of course, and the Confederados are stationed there, right? So they're getting ready for battle, and everything's kind of coming together, and now they know that the humans are on their way, right? They know the humans are on their way to the fort, so they're all getting ready, they're getting in position, and the colonel, of course, is leading his men outside of the fort in front, and that's a big thing, as the battle goes on, right? So the humans then converge on the fort, right? And this was awesome. Like I said, I mean, I really, really liked this scene, but I just felt like they could have done maybe a better job, or at least made it a little bit longer, right? So they exchange gunfire back and forth, and they kind of drive up on those little cars, or those little, I don't even like, kind of like an off-road, vehicle sort of thing, right? Kind of a buggy, right? So anyways, really awesome battle scene. I really, really enjoyed it. Of course, the stakes are actually real this time, right? That's the biggest thing about this battle. Like, yeah, we've seen some battles in the past between the hosts and the humans, and yeah, of course, the humans win, right? But this time, like, the stakes are actually real, and we see some of the men actually get shot and killed, right? So, it's really, really awesome to see that. And now, of course, when the stakes are, real, like, you can actually die, it becomes a little bit more intense and more suspenseful. So yeah, that's really awesome there. So the men are able to find Abernathy and take him away while Bernard quickly hides, right? He doesn't want to be taken by them. And of course, we see him a little bit later after this scene, kind of getting away. But yeah, so they're able to, these men are able to get into the fort. I think they kind of go in through the back and they grab Abernathy and they, take him away. That's really the only reason I think they went there. But of course, killing some of the hosts, probably, not bad, right? Not a bad thing because, of course, they can kill them. So they bring him to the truck where Charlotte is, only Dolores is not okay with that, right? Dolores will not let them get away, and this was just a really, really badass scene here, right? So she comes out, she's running after them, right? She's like, no, you're not taking, Abernathy away from me, and she just goes, like, totally berserk, right? So she just walks, up to them, she's shooting at them, I think she kills 2 or 3 of them, and she gets shot, right? That's the biggest thing about this. She gets shot, and she just keeps on going, like it doesn't affect her at all. Really, really crazy. So I'm thinking is, so when the hosts are in their roles, right, when they're not conscious like Dolores, are they programmed to, when they get shot, to fall down, right? Because of course, they don't really die when they get shot by, they get a gunshot. They don't die. So I'm wondering now, she's able to, decide what she wants to do. So she's deciding not to fall down or not to, die, per se, every time she gets shot, right? So she's practically invincible right now, right? She can get shot and keep going, unless I think it's to the head, of course, because then that'll fry, the technology in her, and she would most likely be done. Right? You can't really do anything about that. But if it's in her body anywhere, I'm pretty sure she can just keep on going. And that was really, really crazy in this scene. So that was awesome. So then we see Dolores' plan working, right? So they kind of get away, by the way. So yeah, they get away in the car with Abernathy. And that's where we leave off with Charlotte's sort of thing, right? So again, like I said at the beginning, we still haven't connected that timeline with how they lose Abernathy, because we know that they haven't found him yet, again, in the current time. So we're not totally sure yet, right? So her plan is working. Dolores planned this whole thing out where she is trapping all the Confederalo men outside the fort to get shot and block the door, right? So this is all part of her plan, and it's a really, really elaborate plan. Very smart, right? So then she detonates the explosives, taking out all the men out front of the fort there, which of course they can't get into the fort with the gates closed and blocked by all the bodies, right? So just really, really smart plan. And I'm not sure she kills all the men that are there, but I would say the majority of them, right? Like that's a pretty big explosive there. A pretty big explosion that would have taken out quite a few, I imagine, right? So very smart plan. And then we see a little thing about Teddy here. This was interesting. So she asked Teddy to go out back and kill the survivors, right? The men that kind of made it, but he can't do it, right? He shoots above them and actually lets them go. So that was interesting. It kind of further proves that he isn't like Dolores, right? He hasn't gotten to that conscious state. They still, the narrators or the humans, right, are still deciding on what he's doing, and he chooses not to kill them in that thing. So, and I think Dolores, we see her watching it too, so she knows, what's going on with him. So, what's going to be the future with them? Are they going to be able to get along if he doesn't follow her orders? Maybe not, right? So that'll be interesting to see. So then we see Bernard tries to escape, and he is confronted by Clementine, so he's not able to get away from the fort there. And he's running dangerously low on that liquid again, that fluid, right, from his head. Obviously, he needs more of that because, getting shot last season kind of damaged whatever is up there, and now he's kind of leaking liquid. So he's shaking again. He's really not in a good state. So he needs help right now, and she kind of knocks him out and just drags him away. So we're not sure where she's going to take him. Sure, we'll find out next episode. So then we see the girl from the very beginning of the episode wash up on shore with the Bengal tiger. That was just really awesome the way they all connected it back. I was just waiting to see this, right? So really ironic though, she washes up on the shore, she's finally safe, and then she gets taken by the Ghost Nation men. So yeah, really crazy stuff, and that explains exactly why they don't find the woman there when they find the tiger there. So, of course, hopefully we'll see what happens to this woman and what the Ghost Nation decide to do with her. If they kill her, right? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but hopefully we find out next episode, or maybe the episode after, right? really cool, because I'm sure that she'll be a big character going forward, especially if they're going to introduce all these different parks, right? So then at the very end of the episode here, this was probably one of the coolest things. So Maeve and the others come upon a fire, right? And it is now snowing in the park. I didn't even know that was possible, but now they're kind of approaching the outskirts, right? So they're approaching this other park, or this other sector at least. So Lee finds a severed head in the snow, right? That was really, really, kind of a scary, kind of horrifying moment there, where he finds this head in the snow. And, he goes back to them. He's like, we got to get out of here. Like, something is wrong here, right? This is not a good place to be. And then suddenly Maeve looks in the trees there, and suddenly a samurai man charges out at them. So the Shogun world has been introduced officially now. The samurais are here, and that's how the episode ends. The samurai guy is charging at them, and so we'll have to see. But yeah, really, really cool introduction here. A little bit of a teaser to what's coming. The samurai Shogun world, which I'm guessing we'll see quite a bit of. So really, really awesome stuff here to end the episode. Alright, so in terms of a rating for this episode, I'm going to give it a 4.7 out of 5. I really, really enjoyed this. I think I gave last week a 4.6, so I thought this one was better. I had to give it a better rating. Really good fight scene, right? An awesome battle there between the humans and as they converge on the fort there, and Dolores' whole plan working out, right? Thought it could be a little bit better, though. That's what kind of brought the rating down a little bit. Of course, it's still, very high. But yeah, so I just thought they could have made it a little bit longer, made it a little bit more elaborate, the whole fighting. But, nevertheless, it was very good, right? And we don't get that every episode where the stakes are actually real, right? And I'm sure we'll get more of that as the season goes on. But in season 1, for example, we never got, a battle like that of that magnitude. So yeah, really great there. Still haven't connected the Bernard timeline. I said that at the beginning as well, but yeah, so we still haven't seen the full timeline connect, and I'm worrying that it actually might, we may only find out by the finale. Who knows? I don't know when they're gonna actually connect it, and even if the way they're presenting it right now is the actual reality, right? Because Bernard, he's a host, so his memory is all over the place, and we've seen that in the past, where they've kind of used that kind of technique in that timeline. So we'll have to see, of course, going forward. I'm sure they'll throw some twists at us, but yeah, so we still didn't connect that in this episode. And I love the introduction of the different worlds, right? So we got the Bengal tiger kind of safari kind of world, and then we also got the Shogun world at the very end there with the little teaser of the samurai coming at them. So that was just really awesome, man. I really like the introduction of the new worlds here, and I think this season's going to be pretty awesome, coming together with all these different worlds and all these different characters or hosts from these worlds. It's going to be really cool, really cool. So I'm really looking forward to that. And no William this episode, right? So I think he's the only kind of one of the main storylines going forward right now that we didn't see in this episode. So they've kind of decided to do that. We didn't see Bernard in last episode, and now we don't see William in this episode. So I'm sure he'll be back next week, and then maybe one of the other storylines won't be. So it's an interesting way they're doing it. I'm not a huge fan. I'd rather just see all 4 storylines going forward each episode. Maybe just focus less on them. I don't know. That's my opinion, but they kind of have to do what they have to do. I mean, 10 hours is a lot, but it is only 10 hours, right? So they can only do what they can fit in, right? So and William's storyline is probably the least, it's probably the smallest one right now. So I understand why they kind of just put him away for an episode, right? Kind of give him an episode off, and then they'll probably bring him back next week. I'd be really surprised if they don't, right? Favorite character for this one is going to be Bernard, right? Played by Jeffrey Wright, and he's doing an amazing job. He did an amazing job in season 1. I don't think many people predicted that he was a host and not a human, and for him as an actor, being able to portray that was really awesome. So really great job, and he's doing an amazing job this season. Of course, he's just doing an amazing job as Bernard and fighting, fighting that urge, because he's a host, but all the humans think he's a human, right? So it's a really big issue that he's kind of fighting right now and trying to stay secret with, right? He's trying to keep it a secret so he doesn't get killed like all the other hosts. So yeah, really great, crazy stuff there. And yeah, I'm just really looking forward to hopefully connecting this timeline and figuring out what has happened with Bernard and how he ends up on that beach. When Strand and the others find him. So yeah, very good there. And that will just about do it for the review. I apologize for this one being a little bit longer, but yeah, very good episode this week. I really enjoyed it. So, anyways, again, thank you so much for watching the review, and thank you for the support on the channel recently. Really appreciate it. It's just been awesome. So, yeah. Anyways, again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week for Westworld Season 2, Episode 4.